Roll Tide, everyone, and welcome to Tide TV This Week, brought to you by Thompson Tractor. I'm Roger Hoover, joined by Kira Goldstein. And Kira, good to see the Crimson Tide get a win over the Vols, but it was a costly game for Alabama.
Yeah, there was a little casualty on the Alabama offense. Jalen Waddle was injured on the first play of the game on the kickoff, and he will be out for the season.
In Knoxville, Alabama used a pair of one-yard scores to jump out to a 14-0 lead in the first quarter. Najee Harris with the touchdown on the Tide's second drive, and then Mac Jones pushed it through with just under 3 minutes remaining in the opening quarter to make it a 14-0 lead for Alabama. After a Tennessee field goal, Brian Robinson Jr. punched it in from 7 yards out. After a Tennessee touchdown, Najee Harris added his second score of the second half. This time it was from 2 yards out. That made it 28-10, Crimson Tide at halftime.
The defense came up with a huge play to start the second half. Will Anderson knocks the Tennessee running back off balance, and Malachi Moore took the ball away and in for the touchdown. Bama up big to start the third quarter, 34-10. Moore had 2 interceptions already this year, and that forced fumble and recovery makes it 3 turnovers on the year already for the true freshman. Then the SEC's leading rusher scored for the 3rd time in the game. This score gives Harris an NCAA leading 14 rushing touchdowns on the year. Up 42-10, the Vols would add another score, but the Tide countered with a couple of Will Reichard field goals in the 4th. Those 2 field goals make it a perfect 6 of 6 on the year, Roger, for the sophomore. The Tide rolled over the Vols on Rocky Top 48-17.
Well, a good win for Alabama. Najee Harris led the Tide in rushing yards with 96 and 3 touchdowns. John Mechie led all receivers with 7 receptions for 151 yards. And then filling in for Jalen Waddle, Slade Bolden was right behind Mechie with 6 catches for 94 yards.
On defense, Christian Harris led the Tide with 10 tackles, 9 solo, including a tackle for a loss. As you just saw, Malachi Moore had the big play on defense with the 28-yard fumble, returned for a touchdown.
Well, the win for the Crimson Tide was the 14th in a row for Alabama over Tennessee and the 29th in a row over an SEC Eastern Division opponent. And with the win, Coach Saban is now 23-0 all-time against his former assistants. The win was also the 94th victory in a row for the Tide against an unranked opponent. That is the longest streak in college football history.
Roll Tide, Roger.
And for the 2nd week in a row and the 3rd time this season, Mac Jones was named the SEC Offensive Player of the Week. Jones finished 25 of 31 for 387 yards, as he also added a 1-yard rushing touchdown as well.
In the AP Top 25, the top 2 teams are still Clemson and Alabama, but the Tide did receive 2 more first-place votes this week, and they now have 10, taking 2 away from Clemson. Ohio State jumps up 2 spots to 3, and Notre Dame and Georgia round out the top 5.
There are 4 SEC teams in the top 25, and all 4 are actually in the top 10. Along with Alabama and Georgia, Texas A&M is 8th, and Florida is at number 10. It was 14 straight for the Tide over the Vols. Coming up next, we'll give you an all-access look at the Tide's big win on Rocky Top.
Tide TV This Week, presented by Thompson Tractor, the exclusive provider of Caterpillar heavy equipment and genuine cat parts for Alabama and Northwest Florida. Visit ThompsonTractor.com for more information. The University of Alabama, where legends are made. Ford, for great offers on F-150, see your local Ford dealer. Proud sponsor of the Crimson Tide.
Welcome back. The regular season is at the midpoint for the Crimson Tide. With the win over Tennessee, Alabama sits at 5-0, ranked 2nd in the country.
Let's take a look back at the Crimson Tide's 14th victory in a row over the Volunteers. This all-access feature is brought to you by Legacy of Hope.
Welcome to Knoxville, and welcome to what hopefully will be for the Crimson Tide their 14th straight victory over the Tennessee Volunteers.
You can feel the energy in this rivalry game. You know what it means to the university and the history of the programs for both teams.
It's our rivalry, baby. It's our rivalry, baby. Let's go.
From Knoxville, here we go. And it is clocked somehow by Devontae Smith.
How do you hold on to this ball?
The give and great penetration by Alabama's Byron Young, and he takes Gray down in the backfield.
Here's a wide open Slade Bolden, and he's got it all the way to the Tennessee 40-yard line. Wide open to Najee Harris, spins and fights to about the 16. Play action again. Jones fires to the 4-yard line to Devontae Smith. And it's first and goal.
Give to Najee, cuts it upfield. He's in. Touchdown! Touchdown, Alabama. Najee Harris with a rushing touchdown in 12 straight games.
Gonna go deep. Got a man out there and got him. Mechie to the 25.
What a throw from Mac Jones. Like you said, 50-yarder down the field, right up the money.
Najee Harris has to spin away from one would-be tackler, a stiff arm, and he got the first down. Wow.
Just throws his man down on the ground. My goodness.
And now Bama quickly to the line of scrimmage. Touchdown, Alabama. Mac Jones, the rushing touchdown, his first of the year.
But Alabama, man, just getting it done. It's fun to watch.
The Tide leads 14-3, and they're threatening again. Another nice catch for Slade Bolden.
Brian Robinson broke one tackle, another into the end zone. Touchdown, Alabama.
He's been running with a lot more intensity.
Deep middle, wide open is Forrestall, and he's all the way to midfield. Jones, deep, man there is Mechie in double coverage. He snags it anyway.
My goodness.
With McMillan leading the blocking, Najee gets the handoff and he runs it into the left side. Touchdown, Alabama.
To me, it's confidence. It's the mentality of this team of we're going to score on every play. If we don't, it's a disappointment.
And now the ball is out. Alabama picks it up. Malachi Moore will walk in. Touchdown, Alabama.
Busted it loose, picked it up, and took it to the house for a touchdown.
I told you if I get out, I'm going to the crib.
Bama's defense ties him up. Phil Mathis was the first guy there.
Exactly what you wanted your defense to do coming out of the half.
Explosive plays have been the calling card for this offense.
Rifles it down the middle, and it's Mechie again. And Mechie's got it to the 35, another big play. Najee Harris has 2 touchdowns rushing today. Najee Harris has 3 touchdowns rushing today as he walks in.
Najee's third touchdown behind Landon Dickerson.
And it goes down inside the 15. Nice job by Drew Sanders on special teams.
Big-time recruits are getting some chances to play.
Drew Sanders breaking a tackle, cuts it outside. Sanders all the way down to the 10-yard line.
But so far, still dominant run game.
Just like that. Just like that.
Alabama's going to go to 5-0, while Tennessee will drop to 2-3 on the year. And now, when all is said and done, Bama wins it 48-17.
We just got to play with more consistency. You know, consistency in performance is what defines success. And play good in spots. We got to play better all the time.
TideTV This Week, presented by Thompson Tractor, the exclusive provider of Caterpillar heavy equipment and genuine cat parts for Alabama and Northwest Florida. Visit ThompsonTractor.com for more information. Ford, for great offers on F-150, see your local Ford dealer. Proud sponsor of the Crimson Tide, the University of Alabama, where legends are made.
Welcome back to Tide TV This Week, brought to you by Thompson Tractor. After a road trip to Knoxville last week, Alabama returns home to take on Mike Leach and the Mississippi State Bulldogs.
Our Christopher England joins us now for a preview of this week's SEC West matchup.
To preview this week's matchup between the Crimson Tide and the Mississippi State Bulldogs, I'm joined once again by former Alabama quarterback and current Crimson Tide Sports Network analyst John Parker Wilson.
Thanks for having me. Another good week from Alabama last week against Tennessee. So looking forward to another one coming up on Halloween night.
It was a big win last week over Tennessee. As you said, 14 in a row for the Tide. This week, it's Mississippi State, and Alabama has won 12 in a row over the Bulldogs. This will be the first time Mike Leach has ever faced the Crimson Tide. Now, Mississippi State looked great in week 1, beating LSU 44-34, but since then, 3 straight losses, including scoring just 14 against Arkansas, only 2 against Kentucky, and 14 against Texas A&M. What has happened to this Mike Leach air raid offense?
You know, I always think it's so tough for teams in week 1 to come out and really know what to expect. I mean, you're facing a pass attack like Mike Leach has. There's a lot of unknowns. So I think there's some tape been put out on him right now, and defenses have made some adjustments on just sitting back, dropping back into coverage, and realizing that, you know, a Mike Leach offense is going to try to find zones, find weaknesses in your defense, and then just really methodically march down the field. So defenses have realized you don't have to blitz every play or apply a ton of pressure. It's just keeping those defenders underneath you and be really good tacklers. That's what you have to do against the Mike Leach team, is tackle and make those open field tackles. And I think that's what teams these past few weeks have been able to do against them.
A quarterback, KJ Costello, set an SEC record with 623 passing yards with 5 touchdowns. Since then, not so good. Costello has thrown 8 interceptions in the last 3 games and has been benched in the second half of the last 2 and is in jeopardy of losing the starting job to backup Will Rogers. Also, All-SEC running back Colin Hill was suspended last week and is questionable for the game on Saturday. That's not going to help an MSU offense that is dead last in the nation in rushing at just 28 yards per game. How do you see this Alabama defense matching up with the Bulldogs' pass-happy offense?
Yeah, big loss for Mississippi State with Hill going out, and with Costello, it's kind of welcome to the SEC, right? It's tough. It's week in and week out. You got to be on your game, and there's no slip up. So this week, I think it's a good matchup for our Alabama team that is starting to put the pressure on quarterbacks from just the front 4. I mean, I think our defensive line is playing great. Freddie Roach, first-year coach for Nick Saban, an Alabama former player. I think you can tell these players are starting to buy in what he's teaching them and what they're trying to do on offense. Of get back there, rush passer. Christian Barmore thought had his best game last week. Byron Young's playing really good, really getting after the passer. So I think it's going to be a test for our secondary to keep up with this pass offense that we're going to see. It's going to be all over the place. They're going to be quick. They're going to try to run a lot of plays. So our defense really has to be on their pre-snap cues and make sure they're aligned correctly, because we've shown this year when we get lined up and ready to play, our defense is pretty good.
Now, on defense for the Bulldogs, they have been much more consistent. Mississippi State leads the SEC in total defense and pass defense, but Alabama has the top offense and #1 passing offense in the conference. This is what you like to see, good on good, as we've talked about before. And now we asked the same question against Georgia. Can the top-rated Bulldogs defense slow down this explosive Alabama offense?
You know, it's going to be a tough challenge for Mississippi State this week, just like any team going against their offense. And right now, Coach Saban's been preaching it, and we've been executing, is balance. Balance on offense last week, 36 pass attempts, 40 rush attempts. I mean, that's about as 50 as you're going to get in the SEC. And it's really keeping defenses honest with the run. It's affecting the passing game. I mean, our play-action passes right now are beautiful. The linebackers coming up, having to honor Najee Harris, honor the running attack, and there's been some pretty big gaps there in the secondary. So to Alabama's key is keep executing, keep doing what they do. And I mean, Sarkisian has done to me just a fabulous job of dialing up the right play at the right time, spreading the ball around.
Well, John Parker, it will also be Coach Saban's birthday on Saturday night. Coach will turn 69, so here's hoping that the team gives him a great birthday present with a great performance against the Bulldogs in Bryant-Denny.
Yeah, no question. Be nothing better birthday present than an SEC win.
Thank you, John Parker. We'll see you again next week.
All right, looking forward to another recap after a win. Let's hope our boys keep it going.
All right, Roll Tide kickoff is scheduled for 6 o'clock on Halloween night on ESPN. Stay with us. We'll have more Tide TV this week coming up next.
Tide TV This Week, presented by Thompson Tractor, the exclusive provider of Caterpillar heavy equipment and genuine cat parts for Alabama and Northwest Florida. Visit ThompsonTractor.com for more information. The University of Alabama, where legends are made. Ford, for great offers on F-150, see your local Ford dealer. Proud sponsor of the Crimson Tide.
Welcome back. There are 73 Crimson Tide players on rosters in the NFL. That's more than any other university.
And most of those aren't just playing, but they are leaders on their respective teams. Let's take a look at our Crimson Tide and the NFL Players of the Week, brought to you by BBVA. This week, we select Calvin Ridley. There have been some great receivers to play for the Falcons, including Julio Jones, but Ridley did something no other Falcons receiver has ever done. Ridley broke the Atlanta Falcons franchise record with 23 receiving touchdowns in his first 3 seasons, and there's still 9 games left in the regular season. Ridley is currently 3rd in the NFL in receiving yards and touchdowns.
Impressive on offense. How about defense? Eddie Jackson had a big game for the Bears against the LA Rams on Monday night. Jackson scored the only touchdown for the Bears as he scooped up a fumble, took it back 8 yards for the score. Eddie also led the Bears in tackles with 9.
And Roger,
yes,
this weekend is Tua Tagovailoa's debut as the starting quarterback for the Miami Dolphins. I can't wait. What about you?
I'm really excited to see it. It's almost Tua time in Miami. We've been waiting for it all year long, so it's finally here. Also making their debut this past week was the Alabama volleyball team. Unfortunately for the Tide, they opened their season against the 7th-ranked team in the nation, Missouri.
Alabama hosted Missouri for 2 games last Wednesday and Thursday. In Game 1, Missouri jumped out to a 2-0 lead, but the Tide won with the 3rd set, forcing a 4th. Unfortunately, the Tigers pulled out the win. In Game 2, Missouri showed why they're the 7th-ranked team in the country as they shut out the Tide 3-0 for the win.
The Alabama soccer team battled to a 3-all double overtime draw against the LSU Tigers. Alabama jumped out to a 2-0 lead with 2 goals from Carly Wyatt. Up 2-1 in the 57th minute, Serena Pham made it a 2-goal lead again with her 2nd goal of the year to make it 3-1. But the Tigers scored a goal in the 58th minute and then another in the 76th to tie it up. Neither team would be able to score in double overtime as the match ended on a rainy night in a 3-all draw.
And the Alabama men's golf team finished 9th out of 14 teams at the Vanderbilt Legends Collegiate. The men carded 3 consecutive rounds below par and finished with a team score of 18 under par.
Thomas Ponder led the way for the Crimson Tide as he finished 8th overall with a career low of 6 under par 65 on the final day of play. In addition to setting a career best 18-hole total, Ponder also set a new 54-hole record of 9 under par 204.
Stay with us. We'll have our plays and players of the week coming up next.
Play action. Jones deep. Man there is Mechie in double coverage. He snags it anyway at the 2-yard line.
My goodness.
John Mechie took it out of the hands of the cover man.
He did have a really pretty touchdown pass. And now the ball is out.
Fumbling the ball is the running back, and it's picked up by Alabama for a touchdown.
Welcome back. Those were our ATI Plays of the Week. Now let's take a look at our Players of the Week, brought to you by Payless Drugs.
Mac Jones started the game off with a perfect 11 for 11 on passing attempts as he finished 25 of 31 on the day for 387 yards. Jones added a 1-yard rushing touchdown in the win over the Vols as he earned SEC Co-Offensive Player of the Week honors for the 3rd time this season.
And Carly Wyatt scored her first goals of the season against LSU this past Friday. Wyatt's 2 goals in just over a minute apart gave Alabama the early 2-0 lead over the Tigers.
Those are our Payless Drugs Players of the Week.
Thanks for watching. We hope to see you right back here again next week. Roll Tide, everybody.
Roll Tide.
This has been a presentation from Learfield IMG College.